Cheers, guys, and welcome to Vinyl Happy Hour. I am Skyler Davis, owner of Culture Shock Clothing and Records here in Rockford, Illinois, home to also Cheap Trick. Also, you can find these releases and find out more about what we're talking about on our website at cultureshockshop.com. But for our Vinyl Happy Hour this week, we're going to talk about a special release, a couple indie store releases, some really great different releases from the Blue Note Tone Poet series as well. And since Record Store Day is now only a week away, we're going to sneak out one more, kind of one of my picks that's coming out on Record Store Day and kind of give you a little more in-depth look at that. But I do want to make sure you've subscribed to this channel, so if you're just catching on to us, we have a whole bunch of other videos where we do every week a different Vinyl Happy Hour and a different feature of some of the most exclusive and interesting records that are getting released for the week. Sometimes we do some holy grails and some rare dives as well. So also give this channel a like and this video a like, and find us on social media as well. The records I'm going to be talking about are available in the links below. We put some of these special releases in the staff picks section on our website, and some of the jazz ones, we do have a section for more jazz and blues to make those easier to find for that. But the big release I want to talk about right now is finally getting released, I should say, Cheap Trick in Another World. Now this has been out streaming and the CD dropped a couple months ago, but with the pressing plants just getting so slammed with orders of all these different records and such a huge global demand for records, some things did get delayed, especially here a few months ago. So this was actually originally slated for release in April, got pushed to May, and is now coming out June 4th is the release date, and it's physically here, so we can announce it, promote it, that it's here after 2 delays. Great album. I've already had a chance to check it out digitally, and of course we had the CDs out too. But these guys are still rocking hard. This is probably one of the best rock albums from Cheap Trick out of their last few albums. Really great sounding album. This is my showing off. It's the one I was listening to today, the indie store exclusive. They did this blue and white kind of splattery colored vinyl. There is black vinyl version as well. Like I said, we also have the CDs. But just a great energy from this band. Of course, summertime now, it makes sense that it came out in summer maybe instead of April, because The Summer Looks Good on You is where the album starts out. Really smooth, good rockin' song. A good summer song. Robin Zander sounds great on the vocals, still very smooth. There's a few kind of heavier licks in this where it does get some heavier rock, but overall they still have kind of that great, kind of that Midwest power pop sound, I would call it. So really cool, and this is only available at independent record stores. Really cool they did that release. If you're wondering what else is up here, we have this thing too. I'm gonna pull this out of the way. This is from Axe Heaven. We have these little miniature replica guitars, and there's even, I didn't realize till we got it and opened the package, there's little knobs on it. There's actual little strings on the guitar too. But this is a hammer replica of Rick Nielsen, of his guitar. Super cool though. It comes with even a little stand and everything. You can adjust it and get it on the guitar stand. Whoa, hello. And the little box that it comes in has little fake handles and stuff like that. Looks like a guitar case. Really cool detail on these. These are actually available in our store and on our website too. They're going to be in the links for the staff picks. They do some other classic guitars. You know, I think Metallica, Van Halen, I think Ace and Gene from Kiss have theirs too. But I just wanted to show that off. I thought that was fun. Rocking my old school Culture Shock shirt. Very reminiscent of the Cheap Trick classic logo. So yeah, kudos to these guys. Really great release. Just wanted to hype that. I also wanted to ask, I know people are listening and watching from all over the country, outside, you know, especially LA and Chicago. You get a lot of bands that come from those cities, but what city, or I'm sorry, what band is a band from your hometown? I want to see in the comments. Obviously, being in Rockford, we get a lot of Cheap Trick talk. That's one of the biggest bands to come out of Rockford. Even though sometimes they claim or will mention Chicago, we know they're a Rockford hometown band. So what's one of the best or biggest hometown bands from your town? Leave that in the comments. I'd like to check that out. I love to find some of the smaller bands too that have come out, or some huge bands that have come from small cities that you don't realize. So anyway, next thing I want to talk about is a really interesting Blue Note release. This is the Tone Poet series, The Witch Doctor, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. I should have made notes. I forgot what year this is from, but it definitely has a big change in look from the 50s and 60s releases, which usually have the band name spelled out. But what's cool about the Tone Poet series is this is such a dark and kind of strange cover. They use these nice, super thick jackets and a gatefold. I've seen this photo of Art Blakey before too, and it's cool to see that it's from this session, I guess. That's what I love about these Tone Poet series is First off, the sound quality is amazing on these. These are completely analog cut, totally analog from the original master tapes. And the thick gatefold always has usually some extra photos inside when available. And they put them on these nice anti-static inner sleeves with the classic Blue Note label. Great sounding album. Oh, I love the pictures too. Obviously the sound's great. But this Lee Morgan one here, where he's blowing his trumpet and he's got the smoke coming up out of there. It's just so cool if you can see that. So cool. It's just such a cool scene of these guys. A lot of times they're smoking. There's a cigarette in hand and stuff like that. You can see where Art Blakey stripped down and just wearing his tank top there. It's hot at the drum set. These pictures of these guys recording these classic albums is another just kind of amazing aspect of these releases. It's cool to see that while you're listening to the album, these great photos of these guys who made these classic albums. Like I said, you've got Lee Morgan on trumpet, Wayne Shorter, here he is right up here, on tenor, sax, Bobby Timmons piano, and Jamie Merritt on bass. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name, it's spelled weird. But anyway, such a cool release, and it's a different one. They definitely are going a little deeper in the catalog, some of Blue Note with some of these releases. I have another one. They're actually trying to do 2 of the Tone Poet series a month. We'll talk about another one here shortly. The next release I want to mention, though, is from another one of my favorite bands, Rise Against. So, I don't know why you keep talking to me. Stop it. So they actually did 2 versions of this. We Are the Nowhere Generation. This is the indie store exclusive. They call it Flame Red Vinyl. But what's really interesting is they did a deluxe version of their album. And this deluxe version, even though it's not an indie store exclusive, I thought it was pretty interesting that it has this die-cut spinning jacket. And it's a gatefold instead of the regular one. And it's on a different color vinyl. And you can actually spin it around and it'll line up and give you like some numbers and like the minutes and seconds of each song, each track. Super interesting. And then they actually did this on a different color vinyl. It's kind of like this swirly, smoky, is it translucent? It is. You can see through it just a little bit, but it's kind of like this smoky gray translucent vinyl. But even more so, it comes with this bonus 7-inch, which is just black vinyl. I actually haven't had a chance. I want to check out, this is the Nowhere Generation 7-inch. I don't know if this is a different version. This is from the Nowhere Sessions. So it must be some different versions of the songs in Broken Dreams Inc. So I want to check that out later. I actually haven't had a chance to hear this. So it must be variations of the songs from the recording sessions. But I was like, wow, this is a little more though. This is probably $15 more almost, or $12 more. But you get the gatefold jacket, you get the paperwork, the insert, and the 45. But it's so different from the regular version. Because this is, as you can see, there is no gatefold, and there's no die-cut jacket. This is just the flat jacket. So really interesting version. I mean, I've been with Rise Against from the beginning, so this is kind of one of those bands where I'm compelled to get every release that they put out. These guys are also kind of that Midwest Chicago sound, really good punk sound. Sometimes they fall in line with, you know, even like NoFX and some of those types of bands. But I love Rise Against. Such a good song. Such a good band, I mean, and there's some of their songs do kind of hit that kind of emo punk way, sometimes even a little hardcore in a way. They definitely have a couple songs, the first singles, that are going in a more commercial direction, but it's still a heavy album, so I really like that. And music does sound better on vinyl, and we have these cool stickers from a good friend of ours. Bryce has these stickers that he has given to the store, and I want to mention that if you say music sounds better on vinyl and you order 2 records from us, put that in the comments. We will throw that in your order for in-store pickup or shipping. So I just want to show off that sticker. I keep telling him I'm going to put that in the video, and I forgot to last week. So there, I remembered that week. Okay. Here is a really interesting Tone Poet series because this was actually not a Blue Note release. I think this might be the first Tone Poet series to be doing something that's not a Blue Note release, because this was actually a Pacific Jazz record. This is Katanga from Curtis Amy and Dupree Bolton. This is a really great jazz album. I love the insert too, how it talks a little bit about Tone Poets series, that what they want to do is bring out some of those jazz artists who could be getting lost to history and present them in a way that will make you want to listen to them and keep them relevant. I love this album too. It's actually really cool the way that the solos go on from artist to artist, and on the Native Land song, I think that's about a 10-minute cut. You get to hear everyone doing their thing. It's really, really great recording. Part of my favorite thing of it, though, is Ray Crawford's guitar. I love that kind of electric guitar, just kind of chiming in here and there. It's a really mellow, laid-back guitar. I love to hear jazz guitar mixed in. A lot of albums just keep to horns and pianos and bass, but this is a really cool release. Again, originals of this are pretty scarce. If the only couple times I've ever seen them, it seems like they're pretty beat to hell, or they've been played on someone's stacker record player or an old console, and they're just worn out and just look and sound horrible. So it's really cool that Tone Poet actually released this. I was kind of surprised too. I was like, wow, this is funny because it's not one of those classic Blue Note releases. And it even has the Pacific Jazz label on it and everything. But this is that thick, probably 180 gram vinyl, completely analog cut. Everything about it is the same as the Tone Poet series, really thick jacket. This wasn't actually not available as a gatefold because it's also not a Blue Note release, and there wasn't the photos from the sessions like the other Blue Note releases. But yeah, I just want to show off we actually got both of the Blue Note Tone Poet series in for the month. Those are pretty limited. They're not numbered or anything, but it's something you would want to pick up from your independent record store, I think, when they're available. Finishing off, I thought, talking about Cheap Trick tonight, got to have some local stuff. So although this was distilled in California originally, this is a Rockford product and was bottled in Rockford. This was batch 3 from Grant View Distillery, bottled at 90 proof. They are going to be distilling locally, and I can't wait for the next batch to get in of that, so I had to finish that off. But I wanted to end this off with something really interesting. One of my favorite releases, and probably something very few people know about, is this Guntruck album, Push. This is a Record Store Day release that's coming out next week, but a couple things we got in early just to get them prepped. They're not for sale yet, of course. They're not available till Record Store Day. But this band is a very overlooked kind of grunge alternative band. So I just want to show it off and talk a little bit more about Guntruck. It's hard to say that name because it just seems so unnatural. But I can't remember if this is the first time ever on vinyl. Also interesting, it was on Roadrunner Records, which for a grunge band, that's weird to be on Roadrunner. But these guys are a Seattle band, 90s band. They had members who were in Skin Yard, you might have heard of that, and The Accused. This is 2,500 copies on yellow and red splatter vinyl. This is definitely for any fan of any kind of grunge music. These guys fell a little more towards what I would say their sound is darker though. It's heavy, and it's gonna lie, oddly enough, I would say between like Alice in Chains and the Toadies. I don't know why, that's just what I pick up from them. They're a little different, a little interesting. But obviously, if you're a fan of anything from Nirvana to Guns N' Roses and Pearl Jam, definitely a little Soundgarden, though, I would say, too. You would like this band. This was a 92 release. You know, 92 is a bad year for records. There was hardly anything getting made in 92, or it's extremely rare. If this was ever pressed, I can't remember now if it was overseas. It might have actually only been on CD. But really cool to see Real Gone Music putting out some of this 90s stuff and working with Record Store Day to make this release. It's a double LP. It's a very long album, as a lot of 90s pieces were, because it was mostly going to CD. But yeah, there's 2,500 copies. This says, Guntruck was the band Seattle wouldn't let you have. Also, Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam said they were the first supergroup of our little scene. Like I said, they had been in different bands, and of course Skin Yard was one of the earlier bands on the Sub Pop record label, even before I think Nirvana had a release out. So it is kind of funny, and I think it's actually produced by Jack and Dino, who had also done, I think work with early Nirvana and Green River and all those bands. But this band, I don't know why they've been so overlooked. I love this CD, I love this band, and it's one of those things where how come no one talks about them? They never get talked about in like one of the top 10, let's say, grunge bands or something like that. Obviously, I know they don't compare to the top 4 or anything like that, but this is, I think, an essential release for anyone into that Seattle grunge scene, alternative scene. So glad it's finally getting released. Record Store Day is happening June 12th. We're opening 8 a.m. in the store. Everything will be available first in store, and that night, anything that's available, hopefully this will still be available because we do have a lot of them, will be on our website at cultureshockshop.com. This is just one of hundreds of releases dropping next week. Plus, we have other releases coming out every Friday all year long for new releases. So please check out our website, check out our store, and please support your local record stores. Everybody, small labels and record stores and independent businesses, always need help, but especially with everything that's been going on through surviving this pandemic and everything else. So we appreciate all your support. I'm glad to see a lot of people getting into music and a lot of people on the YouTube community. So again, like I said, drop a comment. I'd like to see what are some of the bands from your hometown, wherever you live. Obviously, we're all about the Cheap Trick here. They've been a big band, and they've actually been hugely influential over the years to all sorts of bands, especially power pop and grunge bands, it seemed like. So it's cool to see those living legends, who still tour every year, still putting out new music. So we'll see you soon, and we're going to be doing a special episode next week for Record Store Day, so be sure to check that out on our YouTube. Cheers.